Let's go ahead and wrap up on the last story that we had, the one that you had sent to me. Anna and Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks, they were presenting a story on the terrorist attacks that we covered the other day on in France, and they got into a pretty ugly back and forth. I mean, a lot worse than I was expecting, actually, because you've seen them argue. They have different perspectives and all that kind of stuff, but they got into a pretty. But the back and forth they got into was over it was Armenia and the Turkey. Kind of, I guess, the geopolitics between those two countries and the history going on between those two countries. Now, we know before, Cenk Uygur for the longest time was a denier of the Armenian genocide. And, of course, he's acknowledged it now. I just want to be fair to him because he still
kind of sounds like he barely acknowledges it.
But he said he still gets shit for it. Even though, like, I've seen
because he sounds like he does segments like tonight where he sounds like he barely agrees with it,
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to get into. But I mean, I've seen videos of him saying point blank, very emphatically about the Armenian genocide, and now we've heard from the history of them before.
Yeah, he wasn't
into it. If you look into it, he'll say about how Anna convinced him, and Anna told him to reconsider it, and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Anna's ethnically Armenian, right? So
it's kind of funny though, because
she gets so much shit from Armenian people too, for
hanging out with them?
by association. Like if she's a South Indian Armenian.
Think about it though, why that would be like me, getting in a fight with my friend because Ireland and Ireland and Russia were having a fight or something, and I was mad at my friend who was Russian. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't really there's. You're in America, dude. You're Americans.
I don't know. I think it has to be something that's real close to Anna still, and she feels real it hits home.
Yeah, because I feel like he's a dick about it. I feel like he might have accepted it, but I feel like he's still has that streak of
Right. Because they talked about Erdogan,
shame or
right,
something
from the Turkey, and a lot of the flare up of the tension between France and Turkey right now is over a cartoon that was made about him, and there was some kind of satirical thing, and they made another one of Mohammed, but they made one of Erdogan as the one that he flipped out over. And I mean, right now the tensions over the two countries is ridiculous because it's over this stupid ass cartoon. But all right, let's play the argument, and then let's see. We've looked into this a little bit, so we'll come back with our reactions after this. So.
To be clear about all of this, okay? So first of all, Turkey was upset with Macron earlier, and particularly about that cartoon, which is as ridiculous as Anna says. But after this latest killing, Turkey sent a message, as did a lot of Muslim countries, saying that they stand with the victims and obviously condemn the horrific terrorist act. And I don't like it that all Muslims, 1.5 billion Muslims, have to apologize for every attack by some radical Muslim fundamentalist idiot. If that same standard was applied to white people, you'd all have to apologize for every white supremacist domestic terrorist attack in America, which is now in the dozens, and a far greater percentage of white people in America than there are of Muslim terrorists to the 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. So I don't see anyone calling for an apology from all white people, because that makes no sense. I also don't see any reasons why any Muslim in the world should apologize for terrorists that have absolutely nothing to do with them. So I'm just gonna say it real quick. Nagorno-Karabakh, it also should be pointed out that Armenia did not listen to a UN resolution saying that is not their land. So that's the two sides of that issue.
I mean, look, Cenk, you and I can talk about this story more in depth, but a UN resolution by countries that don't even recognize the Armenian genocide, that was their land, that was historically their land, and it was handed over.
And
yes,
you sound like an Israeli right-winger, honestly.
No, it's not true. Cenk, that
area- It was
area-
my land 2,000 years ago. I don't recognize the United Nations.
Okay.
Well, that's convenient, right? So look, I'm not saying who's right or wrong, and I got no dog in that fight. I really don't. In terms of, I don't know the Azerbaijan internal politics versus Armenian internal politics.
I do.
Okay, all right, yeah, but you can't conveniently say, hey, UN resolutions don't count when it's my ethnicity. Okay, UN resolutions do count, and so that gets held over Turkey's head on Cyprus for 50 years. Then when Armenia does it, oh no, it's okay. UN resolutions don't mean anything. We hold it over Israel's head that they're doing things that are against the United Nations and the whole world agrees on. So we have to be consistent. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, but I think it's also incredibly relevant to talk about the fact that we have ethnic Armenians who have been living there literally for centuries, living their lives, not doing anything wrong, literally doing nothing wrong, and they're being attacked. Their churches are being bombed. Their hospitals are being bombed.
Did we note that Armenia invaded in the first place? Did we note that?
Armenians were already there.
Did we note that they also did ethnic cleansing when they first came in?
Jake, that land was handed over to Azerbaijan, okay, by Stalin, because Stalin was hoping that Turkey would become an ally. And that didn't work out for Stalin. And because of what Stalin did, Armenians are suffering the consequences of his decisions from decades ago, okay? The innocent civilians are dying as a result of that. Yeah.
Only innocent Armenians, right? No innocent Azerbaijans.
Well, they're going to defend themselves, Jake.
Oh, okay. So when Azerbaijan defends itself, it's not defending. When Armenia defends itself, it's defense.
Azerbaijan has broken every single ceasefire that they have agreed to.
Wait, who broke the United Nations resolution and took the land in the first place?
They have broken every single ceasefire.
Anyway, now back to Erdogan. Erdogan, you're a tough guy. Okay, you're a tough guy. Like, that's your big claim to fame.
All right, yeah, let's cut that there because that's really what we wanted to talk about. I mean, first of all, it didn't seem like we were talking. Like you probably heard some of the video. It didn't make sense for Cenk to go there.
Yeah, it wasn't. I thought they were talking about Turkey and France.
Right, and then he just interjected Armenia into the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
and then right away you can see from the reaction that Cenk had. He knew he was about to get into it. He knew it was about to go south pretty fast.
Yeah, because these must have been like arguing about it beforehand or something. You know, it seemed like they picked back up in the middle of an argument they were already having.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit like that. I mean, it's like they've mentioned. There's a history there. He was an Armenian genocide denier. This is something that I think.
When did he stop denying it?
I mean, that was what, it was like 10 years ago. It was a while back.
After he was doing TYT?
Yeah, no, it was while he was doing TYT, and then Ana came on board, and apparently they would get into it in these matches between Turkey and Armenia.
And she convinced him?
Yeah, and that's what he says, is that she convinced him, and he knew he was wrong.
So the thing with Azerbaijan, it sounds like they both have good arguments, huh?
From both sides of things, yeah. I mean, look, the whole idea from Cenk is that there's a UN resolution.
Hey, UN resolutions don't count when it's my ethnicity. Okay, you really don't. Don't recognize the United Israeli right-winger, honestly.
No, it's not true. Cenk, that area...
It was my land 2,000 years ago. Okay. I don't recognize the United Nations. Okay. Well, that's convenient. Really right-winger, honestly.
No, it's not true. Their land, and it was handed over. You and I can talk about this story more in depth, but a UN resolution by countries that don't even recognize the Armenian genocide, that was their land.
By countries that don't even recognize it.
That's what it was. So there's a UN resolution.
Azerbaijan and Turkey.
Okay, that makes sense. So the UN does acknowledge it.
Yeah, 1985 it says.
Okay, so the Armenian genocide was recognized in 1985, but Anna's point, I guess, is that part of that resolution against Armenia's claim to that land came from countries that still don't acknowledge the genocide. Yeah. Okay, so that's a little bit more nuanced then.
Yeah, it's over that turf. They're fighting over that land,
right?
And it's
which Anna claims is
seems like there's more Armenians there,
right?
Well, they live there now. I think is what it is. I think it's mostly Armenian, but it's in Azerbaijan, and you know, they've been fighting over it, and it's flared up.
And you know, the fact that, you know, the argument that Cenk went to, where as soon as Anna says that ethnic Armenians have been living there for decades or for centuries, Cenk went right to, well, you also have ethnic Turks there.
Yeah, I think there are a lot less of them, though. I think it's like 80-20 or something like that.
Right, but I mean, that's kind of says about what this fight really is to them. It's a personal thing because of their connection to each side of it.
yeah, it's
so I mean, with
it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, to see it flare up like that, I mean, you have to imagine how the fight was before when Cenk was an absolute denier, and then I mean, yeah, you don't want to be a denier of genocide, but the way he came across to it now, I mean, clearly he still has that a favorable view of Turkey, and then he goes and he tries to kind of criticize Armenia for saying that the Armenians invaded that land.
I don't know. It's tricky though. It's like it's hard to put yourself in those shoes, right? I guess maybe it would be like I don't know. I could see, like I said, I could see like arguing if it was like Ireland or something, right?
Right.
But like that's a different situation because they were explicitly colonized. It wasn't like the turf that they kind of fought over, right? Like, there's very few places like that where you would have the opportunity to like have that kind of beef with your friend, right?
I thought it was kind of a cheap shot that he told her that she sounded like an Israeli. I thought that was a cheap shot.
Well, I mean, that's I mean, her argument's better than the Israeli argument, right? Like, the people have been living there, like not,
Yes.
It wasn't like they're forcing out the inhabitants to move back there or whatever.
No.
They did live there 2,000 years ago, not currently.
Yeah, and then the whole connection back to Stalin, I guess that was interesting to me just because I like history and everything. But
I mean that is interesting. Like I said, I think it seems like.
I mean, because all that stuff seems like it's so detached when you go and read about it, but when you see that people are still having to face ramifications from decisions from so long ago now.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I mean, you have I'm sympathetic to the Armenian case. I think it does sound like they were kind of that group was kind of screwed. They were used as a for politics and separated from the rest of the country.
Right.
So, they should have. And it's always like I always feel like when there's like a big country and a little country fighting over a piece of land, they should give it to the little country.
Right.
Like tie goes to the winner kind of thing. Like,
yeah. But I mean, on that, I think they both had good arguments. I mean, I thought that Cenk, now looking at it, what Ana was actually saying is bolstered up a little bit. If you're gonna have a UN, you have to abide by their resolutions, not be selective at it because you have a dog in the fight.
Yeah, but you know how the UN is, though. It's like it's 100% political. Like I don't know what that resolution was. It's from 2008. Was a ceasefire. So I don't know what the politics of that were, but I don't know. It's like it's hard pressed to believe it's like was done for legitimate reasons and not political ones.
Right. Well, the thing I did like though was how Cenk like kind of wanted to just get the fuck out of there. At the end of it, he just turns his attention back to the leader of Turkey.
Yeah, well, they like weren't talking about the story at all, right? Like,
no, I
have no idea what happened.
It went completely off the damn rails. Yeah. But I think that a lot of that is on Cenk.
I still have no idea really. I mean, I have some idea of like what happened, right? It's like they're fighting over this cartoon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that?
I don't think Cenk needed to. I don't think Cenk needed to go up to the story and bring that up. I don't think that was a relevant part of the story.
No, exactly. He brought that out of nowhere just so he could dunk on Armenia.
Yeah.
Like, this is like tangentially related to Turkey because of their connection to Azerbaijan. Like, that's it. Like, do you think that the attacks were some crazed like Turkish national?
Because what we were looking at was there's 3 different attacks, right? That have gone on recently over there, and it has to do. I mean, the first one was when they killed the teacher. That he put the image of Muhammad, and then they murdered him, and that has to do with what France has been doing in regards to how critical they've been of Islam lately, and I would say critical. I mean, the point that they bring up in this video too was that people don't have to. If you're not Muslim, you're under no obligation to follow the same rules as a Muslim in regards to the image of Muhammad.
Yeah, but it's just like dick, I think. Like,
and that's where I fall onto it too. Is it's not so much that it's that you should do this or should not do this. I think it's just a dick move to do something that you know is gonna offend an entire religious group.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for me, that's it. I mean, it's not my religion. Never been my religion. I still have mine. But I mean, I would still kind of want to be respectful of somebody else's beliefs, whether you're atheist, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever your denomination is. And I don't think it hurts me to go and say, all right, yeah, I mean, I'll just stick away from images of Muhammad. But
yeah, America would have no problem doing it.
But what it sounds like from the description that if you read up on the story is it's almost like a troll effort on behalf of France to attack Islam. But regardless of that, that's not an excuse for violent outreach, for violent demonstrations or violent attacks that are going on in France in retaliation.
Random people too. It'd be one thing if they were like politicians or, like
whatever the attacks
last time there was the Charlie Hebdo attack, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, whatever the attacks
just random violence.
There's no justification for jihad. No. There just isn't. So,
I mean, maybe against Macron, but Allah Akbar. I think.
But
in Minecraft.
But yeah, I mean,
he's doing it like there's tensions in France, right?
There's tensions
all over Europe from the refugees that caused by Western imperialism.
Uh-huh.
So like he's using this as a wedge issue to play to his base, But just like Trump does with build the wall,
right? And if there's attacks by radical Muslim terrorists at that point, too, I mean, why would you want to do something to increase tensions first of all, and then act like you're doing something virtuous by protecting your democracy and free speech?
This would be like if like MS-13 was a violent terrorist group, like they try to make him out to be. Right. Like, they're lucky.
There's it's inflaming of the problem. And it's a lot of ways you could kind of juxtapose it back to what we've dealt with over here with regards to the Middle East tension. So we're attacked, we suffer a bunch of terrorist attacks, and then we respond by inflaming the whole area. And the only difference at that point is that there's so much military power and military investment, is that you can lay waste to the whole area without having that fall back on you immediately.
Yeah.
But do you think there's a lot of pissed off Muslims in the Middle East that aren't getting radicalized by what the U.S. has been doing for the last 2 decades?
Yeah. And then and before them, the Europeans before that, right?
Exactly.
Like, there's been white people fucking around in the Middle East for a few generations now, and certainly no signs of slowing, right? They're just getting more aggressive, the situation all across with Syria and Israel, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, all that shit. They're cracking the whip,
Right. But I don't know. I guess Cenk.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Did you see? I'm sorry. Never mind. What were you saying?
No, I was saying. Well, I guess the strongest point Cenk made, I think, is that if you're gonna, because they use UN resolutions to go and be critical of certain actions by other countries. If you're gonna do that, then you have to be consistent about it. If that's your standard. If that's not your standard, you think the UN is trash, then it's always trash. You can't use that as a justification against Israel. But then decide not to when it's your own people.
Yeah, like I said, even the facts on the ground in the Israel West Bank situation are different.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's not their land. They know it's not their land. They know they're not supposed to do the settlements, and they're doing it anyway.